that is, I don't know, through the bonds. That's
yes.
probably the best way. So that's probably the best way. So the other thing, another thing about SolarCity that to me is amazing, and one of the reasons why I love working here is that as we're moving forward, we're giving back. So Give Power is a program. We're putting solar on more than 100,000 Department of Defense military housing, so that enlisted soldiers get the same benefits from they're living in a house, but we're putting solar on their house, and they get the benefits of cheaper electricity. Sorry, that's solar strong. Give Power is something where basically 1 out of 5 people in the world do not have access to electricity. So for every megawatt of residential solar that we install, that's about 160 homes. We are in a third world country, a developing country, and we bring a solar system to a school and install solar on that school. So we've done I think it was over 500 last year, and we went to Nepal after the earthquake, and we're installing hundreds of solar systems on schools. So all of a sudden, a school that, besides the fact that they basically lost so much infrastructure, but they were never even connected to the grid, now they can study at night. Now they have a place to plug in a laptop computer. And we're bringing in, this is something that was interesting for Dan, which is making it a sort of a microgrid, so that system stands on its own. So it doesn't need, at night there's a battery, and it creates this closed loop system because they don't even have connection to the grid. I'm going to skip this video because we know we don't have sound. But basically, this is our commitment. Immediate savings in energy. Those grow over time as Edison or the utility rates are growing nationally. California grows even faster than 5.5%. We guarantee the performance of the system. It's 20 years of energy production, depending on the type of agreement that you have with us, and everything is warranted for life.
If inverter goes after 5 years or something, there's a warranty? Is that done?
If the inverter goes in the 19th year of a 20-year warranty, we would come out and replace it, because all of the components are covered. So we can call it bumper to bumper.
For people who have actually purchased their system from SolarCity, not leased, they have the option to get some kind of warranty that's ongoing for 10, 20 years, whatever.
They actually, if you purchase by cash, a cash purchase, I'll go into that, you have that. You have the new cash agreement is a 20-year warranty, the same as the lease. The same as the lease. Obviously, we're getting money up front for the whole installation, and some of that money is set aside because we know we're going to have to replace a certain amount of inverters, make a certain amount of service calls.
It's probably not an option a lot of people would be doing, but is there anything where it's like if people were interested and they already have the system, and like there's just more efficient stuff that comes out maybe 5-10 years down the road in their contract, could they somehow like upgrade that stuff, or is it kind of just like, well, you have this deal and just keep it that way? Or
well, what we'll do is we'll replace if a piece of a component malfunctions, we'll replace it with whatever the current technology is. So we're not stockpiling 2015 inverters so that if your inverter goes out in year 18 that we're going to bring back in 2015, we'll put in whatever the current technology is. The panels, though, the truth is that the panels last a lot longer than the 20-year life agreement that we signed. Even if you extend that out to 30 years, the panels, they lose a 0.5% of efficiency perhaps every year, but they last a lot longer. So there's really no need to go up and, let's say you asked the question, what's the efficiency if we're at 18.5% and we can get to, now we have 21%. There's really no need to go and do that if the panels, environmentally it's not good because you're just throwing out those panels because they're a 15-year-old panel. It's kind of like a cell phone. At some point we buy that phone and we jump in with the technology. The difference is on a cell phone it's a much smaller purchase, so you're okay with buying another one 2 years from now.
I've also read someplace that the cost for keeping these solar panels clean, the labor cost, is actually more expensive than it would be just to forget about it and let it rain a few times a year, because the efficiency is not that much depending on where you live and what falls on those panels.
I haven't cleaned mine.
Right.
I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you should.
But I actually am going to, waiting for this spring because I live kind of like on a wildland interface, right? So there's a lot of vegetation on the hill above my house. So we get that yellow pollen for a couple of months. So as soon as I wash, you know, it hasn't started, but it's about to when spring comes. So as soon as I wash that car the last time and there's no more yellow pollen on it, I'll have, you know, I'll wash them like, you know, with water, no chemicals, soft brush, have a window washer, whatever it is, just to make sure that they're clean. But,
Us, we've got a passive solar water heater that gets water from our sprinklers, so it gets the calcium buildup on it. And I noticed that if you get a good rain, you know, through the season for a few weeks, it'll actually wash that calcium out.
I love it. You know, people say, "Oh, it's raining your solar panels." I actually am like, that's the sound of my panels getting clean. I really, like, I feel that. My panels are getting clean. And really, it's a beautiful. I mean, besides we're in California and the drought. So.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of interested. You said something about bonds, like solar panel bonds. Were you going to talk more about that?
I don't. You know, I can actually pull up the webpage when we're done, and we can look at that. But I don't want to. It's not something that I've invested in, so I haven't done my due diligence. I was excited when I saw that we're doing that. I think it's a really cool way for SolarCity to bring more people into the movement, to pay out some of the benefits from, you know, so we'll look at that. Another way to benefit from solar is to be an ambassador. So whether you have solar on your home or not, even, you know, just you're interested in it, for all of our referrals, we love referrals. You know, we're constantly growing and getting new customers. So the best way to do that is through our ambassador program. And if you think of, you know, maybe it doesn't work for you, but it works for your neighbor or your coworker or an enemy of yours, or whatever, you know, everyone should have the opportunity to go solar. So we send a little thank you, a couple $100 for every referral that installs. So it's a nice way to make a little passive income, and, you know, while you're thinking of something that's good for the planet.
And I'd just like to say, I am a member of the ambassador program, and because you have the technology to jump on the computers and do things, if you have a friend in Hawaii, you can still make money from it, because Ross or Stu can do all that needs to be done right here virtually without ever even going to Hawaii, and you can still get your referral fee.
19 cities, and in fact, I was just showing Michael, you know, there's an app, that same app that you use to track how much solar you're generating, where your project status is. You log on, you click a little invite button, you push in someone's name and phone number. I get an email, you know, thank you from Clay, and Clay referred somebody, and, you know, referred a person. I connect with that person. If they install, Clay gets a thank you, a check for a thank you, and that person gets their first month free with solar, because as a thank you to them for being a referral. So we love that.
If you're big on social media, there's a lot of referral business.
Yeah, I mean, putting it up on your website, hey, I just saw an awesome solar presentation, you can link to it or whatever. You know, I put my card on each one of these flyers, so you can take that just to have a little something. It's not as informative as I am, or our discussion is, but so I wanted, thinking about real estate and investments, I was trying to think of what kind of questions you guys might have, and I hope you keep interrupting with questions. I love the discussion back and forth. But basically, we have multiple options. A couple people asked about cash purchase or leases. We try to make it so that no matter what kind of customer you are, there's a way to go solar, a way that makes sense for you and your particular situation. So we have flexible payment options, right? A solar lease, no upfront costs, zero. I mean, when I say zero, you don't pay SolarCity a dime until your system is generating electricity on your roof. The next month you'll get your first invoice. There's no secret hidden fees. Fixed monthly payments. So mine's $113 this month, or this year every month. Next year it'll be $116 because it goes up 2.9%, which is a heck of a lot better than 4.5% or whatever California is doing for electricity.
Now is that the lock-in rate? Is 20-year lock-in? That's different.
That's lock-in. I do not pay. So I can. It's 2.9% every year, so it goes up once a year. You can also do it a little higher starting price. So instead of I said, I don't like that 2.9%. I just want to have a 0% escalator, so I know my price is going to be the exact same every year for 20 years. Very easy. You just a little higher starting price. I think for mine, instead of 113, it was like 141. I'm guessing it was 2 years ago that I did that, but let's say it was 140. That means I'm paying 140 this year all the way to year 20, which is really cool For me, I wanted more savings up front. I didn't know if I would be in the house, so I was trying to front load some of those savings and just save as much money as possible this year, next year. But obviously, there's going to be a year out in the future where I'm paying 170, more than 140. So really, it's just a different way to realize those returns.
And that could add value to your house when you sell if you did lock it. Because you could tell people, hey, for 20 years, you're never going to have to worry
Well,
about it.
I will talk about value in homes with real estate in a second.
What happens at the end of the lease?
I have that. I have a good little picture on that as well. These are good questions. I'm glad we're on the same path.
I was just wondering how many cases you've seen where somebody ends up paying more than electricity. Have you seen that?
I've seen cases where people's total electric payment will go up, and that's really because their consumption goes up, right? I mean, we guarantee that the system's going to generate 95, plus or minus 5%, so 95% of what it's engineered. So when you sign that contract for, in my case, $113 a month, I knew it was going to, if I make 7,200 kilowatts, I'm going to make 95% of that, or SolarCity is going to pay me back. So there's no way to lose on that. The price is, if you have a heat wave, and I was working from home a little bit more, and I started running my air conditioning, and I'm like, plug in your Tesla, your Volt, now all of a sudden you're changing the equation.
Yeah, the Tesla Volt really don't drive it up hardly at all because it uses so little, 70% of all that cost is infrastructure. It's not the electricity you use. But we are a customer that it did go up because we exactly wanted to get rid of propane and other things and add it to our bill knowing that it would bring it up. But we'll eventually get more panels or batteries or wind or whatever.
So Stu or myself, we're going to go and meet with Dan in a year or so, and they kind of figured out exactly what the usage is over a year without their propane, without their and with the electric car. We'll just add another system.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I have heard that if you sign for a lease, that if you sell the house, then the people that buy the house has to be qualified to assume that lease.
So we make the transfer of whatever way you get solar very easy. And I have a really good slide that shows you what's in the contract. So besides just listening to me or what I say, I'll show you what it shows in our contract. Another way to do it is called a power purchase agreement. It's a little bit different because the lease, your payment is fixed for a whole year. You know what it's going to be every month. The power purchase agreement, you're just paying for the electricity that you're generating. So summer month, your solar bill is going to be higher. Winter months, your solar bill is going to be lower. But it's very typical to what you're used to. You're used to paying more in the summer because you're based on consumption. Now you're just paying for the production of solar. So it works out to similar. And then the last is the purchase of the system, a cash purchase. I have a number of customers that have done that. Basically, there's no financing. You own the system. You get the tax credit. We'll go into that in a little more detail. But you get the same warranties, the same power production guarantee. So it's pretty good. Here's a Thousand Oaks acorn, basically just showing you that I think for realtors and investors, it's important to work with a real estate agent that understands the value of solar. It's like marketing a a house, with a swimming pool or something like that. It's a different amenity. People are looking for it. So here, energy efficient home has solar panels, right? Next one, solar panel field installed on the property is a large solar panel field generating the power needed to run this entire estate, saving the owner approximately $25,000 a year. So they've done the calculation, and you know it's $25,000 is what they were spending on electricity, and that person paid for the system. Here's a $6 million home. It's a little bigger than mine. 11,000 square feet, 30 kilowatt solar electric system normally exceeds all electrical needs. So, someone who's buying a house like this, and you can see this is a huge property, they probably have more than a $25,000 a year electricity spend. So if they're looking at and evaluating properties, I'm going to get the one that's got solar because now I just know that I'm going to save myself $25,000 or $30,000 this year, and next year it's going to be a little bit more because the utilities rates are escalating, right?
Especially if somebody had purchased it rather than leased it, because you're buying the house with the purchased solar.
Absolutely, and you probably can charge more of a premium for that if the house, if you invested that. The payoff is different, the return on investment for solar for a cash purchase. You know, it's between 7 and 11 years, 7 and 12 years, depends how big it is, what percentage of your electricity it's making, a couple of other factors. But figure it's 8 or 9 years average. You know, so there's a lot of calculations. That's why I say we do leases, the power purchase agreement, the cash. We do all these different things. We're actually coming up, I believe, with another kind of loan product. We're actually taking a loan from SolarCity to purchase the system. So you have the ownership, but you pay it off over 5 years or 7 years, right? Instead of just writing a check for a customer that basically paid it for a $90,000 system because they did the math and it's the best way to save close. So please.
I know there's a lot of variables, but like for a kilowatt, what would be a normal upfront if you're just doing purchase rather than money?
I would say it ranges from, it really depends on how much electricity you use and the orientation of your house and the number of factors. So if for an average customer, it's anywhere between like say $25,000 and $50,000 just for that cash purchase up front. But a lot of the newspaper things that I'm showing you, those are anecdotal, right? So someone's selling, but this is actual data. So Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory did a study, I think it was 2014. It's a Department of Energy laboratory at University of California at Berkeley. And they studied solar and the effect that solar has on real estate values. So, you know, this is not me speaking, this is them. So basically, I'm going to round the figures here, but we analyzed 23,000 homes, 4,000 of which had photovoltaics or solar electricity across 8 states over 11 years, and they find that home buyers are consistently willing to pay premiums across all of those markets and home types, and the average premium for solar is equal to approximately $4 a watt or $15,000 for an average system size. So when you're selling your house, if you live in that house for 10 years and you've already, the return on investment's already, you know, you've recouped that, and you're getting free electricity and you're loving it, and you've lived there a few years and you decide, hey, it's 10 years from now, we're going to sell the house, that agreement transfers to the new owner. They still get 10 years worth of maintenance and coverage and power production guarantee, and they don't pay anything for electricity. You said your bill was $400?
It was 4, and it dropped it almost in half.
So 4, but figure it would have been maybe 5 with the without the propane, and so it would have been even more. So you're spending $6,000 a year in electricity, right? What's that going to be 10 years from now at 4.5% annual escalation? It's going to be a lot more than $6,000 a year. So now, to sell that to somebody, sell that home with that system, they're saving more than $10,000 a year, right? For 10 years, the system's going to last longer, but it's guaranteed without any maintenance for that 10 years left on the investment. So you can really see how that helps for real estate.
How does it, how does it help for real estate? Does it appreciate or depreciate the value?
The system itself depreciates a little bit every year, right? Because it's just, it gets older or whatever. But in this case, it appreciates. Buyers are willing to pay the premium. This is the abstract from the study. It's not really that, but you know, the average buyer is willing to pay a higher price for that home that has solar because they realize that they're going to have less. I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of buyers, hey, what's the cost of the house? What are the amenities? How much is the electricity going to? How much are the utilities at this house? Right? Every smart investor is wondering what the utility costs are going to be for that house.
I mean, the difference, I won't say exactly, but like going from a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom to a 4 or 5-bedroom home, which is going to add value.
That's right.
Is there a tax on the energy you produce for the homeowner?
No.
It's a tax credit.
Well, that's different from the purchase. That's from the purchase price. I'll explain that.
You're making something. You're earning something. That it's got to be the government wants some sort of cut.
I don't want to misspeak. I'm thinking that it's excluded. That the actual energy that you're producing is excluded from, because they're encouraging renewable energy. But HOAs. I want to talk a little bit about HOAs. Unfortunately, I'm the president of my HOA, but 66 homes, it's great. I do love it, actually. And there's something called the California Solar Rights Act. So you can read it here, but basically an HOA is prohibited from preventing you from going solar. They cannot say no.
Oh, wow.
They
That's
cannot say no. If it's if it's condos and they're stacked roofs and things like that, there are other considerations. But if you're like talking single-family homes or townhouses where someone owns the interest, they have the single interest in the roof above their house and they have a meter, an HOA cannot say no. So, go
And is
ahead.
that because the government has mandated solar as opposed to mandating wind?
Well, they haven't mandated solar, but they've mandated, the mandate is that here, let's read it here. So basically, any covenant restriction or condition in any deed, right, your CC&R, security instrument, or other instrument affecting the transfer sale of any real property that prohibits or restricts the installation of solar is void and unenforceable in the state of California. It's the policy of the state to promote and encourage the use of solar systems and to remove obstacles thereto. Anyone who says, I live in an HOA, call me, I'm an expert at this. There are reasonable restrictions that an HOA can enforce. So you do have to go through, I did say it's a process, but not a roadblock. You do have to go through the normal architectural approval committee and get their approval. But if they come back and say, no, we refuse to allow it through the architectural approvals, call me. I'll hand that law to them right now. Go ahead.
I've heard that shade from a neighbor's tree is also something that can be dealt with, that they might have to trim the trees to.
I can't speak to that. I don't know that you could force your neighbor to do anything, so go ahead.
How soon is it gonna be that Tesla or SolarCity comes out with the in-house energy generator? Have you heard of this, where you put it?
I don't
on
know
your
that,
wall?
but I will get to like storage and kind of how that relates for some of the future things that are coming up soon. The final, to wrap up the HOA, is that they can put some restrictions or conditions upon the installation of solar, but it can't affect the price by more than $1,000, and it cannot affect the efficiency of the system by more than 10%. So if they said to you, we don't want your solar on the front of your house, and that's your south facing, we're going to only approve this if you move this to the north side. If you just lost more than 10% of the kilowatt hours, that's an unreasonable restriction. It's unenforceable. So prohibited. So it's really important. Here's a couple of quick tips. I'll burn through these quick. Make sure you're getting what you pay for. Just make sure you're working with someone that's licensed in all the materials, right? Basically that they're standing behind all of their products. Know how much you pay. So make sure that there's a schedule of payments for every month, every year. With SolarCity, you know how much, obviously there's the utility price that's left over. If you make 96% of your electricity, you're still buying 4% from Edison. But you know exactly what you're going to pay for solar for the entire term of the agreement. And it should have that schedule. And look for other fees and charges. One cool thing about SolarCity in the contract, when you list out some of those charges, one consideration that people will have is say, you know, my roof's okay now, but I think in like 5 years, I'm gonna have to replace this, or even 10 years. I don't wanna put solar in my house if it's gonna be there for 20 years. For $499, well, $500, but it's $499. We'll come out and pull the entire system off your roof, store it on site, have whatever roofing work you need to have done, painters, roofing, whatever it is that you need to do. Call us back up, we'll reinstall the solar, and that's one flat rate of $499. I'm saving that in a year, or a little bit over a year. You're saving more than that. You're saving, if you went from 6,000, or you were 4,800 down to 2,400. You're saving $2,000 in a year. $500 to pull your panels down when you're ready to do your roof. What we're doing is removing obstacles that people might, or objections that people might have for not going solar.
Does that include on a remodel if you're expanding and moving the front of the house out? Because I have been quoted, like, to remove the panels and everything, like $5,000 for them to come out and remove it.
So you should be working with SolarCity because we would charge you $499 for that. Now, to remove it and put it back up, so that's one fee, not $499 on each side. What I will say is if you're remodeling your house and you're changing the configuration of your roof, let's just say, and then there might be additional fees. There's actually, if you wanted to take that system and move it from your Santa Barbara house to your Ojai house, right? And you I'm just saying, for as an example, then it's $499 to pull it down and reinstall it, and another $499 to get it permitted, fix the redesign, other components and things like that, and we move it. So for $1,000 or $998, we'll move it to another house. So if you're reconfiguring your roof with add-ons or additions and things like that, there might be additional fees, but that's in our contract. The point is, your contract has to stay, right? So make sure your roof is protected, right? Any ethical company will take responsibility for restoring that roof for any work that they're doing while they're doing the installation or at the end of the term of the agreement. SolarCity protects against damage to your home and property, and we take responsibility for all the repairs during that whole agreement. If it's not in the contract, it doesn't exist, right? Whatever I say, I'm an honest guy. I try to be as honest as possible, but sometimes I'll get a fact incorrect or a miscommunication or something like that. Make sure it's in the contract. Everything that, this is right, escrow. It's why we have title insurance. It's why we do all of this stuff with. So, there's Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is responsible for leasing laws. So any solar lease should be subject to that. So just be aware of that. And know your options when you're moving or selling your home, and a couple of you have asked about that. I'm just going to switch directly to this and the transferability of the product. So if you move, we've got you covered. We can transfer the agreement to the home buyer, to the new buyer, right? Not only can we transfer the agreement, but we guarantee that that buyer will qualify. And I'll show you exactly how. The other thing is you can move the system. I explained how we can move the system. But here is the actual language from our contract. This is why I say tip 4, make sure it's in the contract. If you sell your home, the person buying your home can sign a transfer agreement assuming all of your rights and obligations. That means we're responsible for the maintenance, all things that you're responsible for as a homeowner, or we're still responsible for as the solar company, by qualifying in one of 3 ways. Either they have a FICO score of 650, or they're paying cash for the house. They don't have the FICO score, but they're paying cash. Or if they fail both of those, like maybe they had a 630 and there's new lending criteria and they're able to actually get the loan for the house that they're not buying, but they don't have 650, so they fail both of those criteria, you pay a $250 credit exception fee. It's a small waiver. Again, you're saving $2,000 a year. What's $250 when you're selling a house? So it's in the contract and we guarantee. So if someone's having a problem, make sure, caveat emptor, make sure that the person knows what they're getting into when they get into an agreement so that they can transfer. It's really good for real estate investors to know that and understand that and to see it in writing. At the end of the agreement, this is also directly from our contract. I just cut and pasted this out of our contract. We will either remove the system at no cost to you. 20 years go by, Dan says, calls Stu or calls Ross. Thank you very much. This is awesome. We're done. We don't need solar anymore. I really want to pay Edison prices now.
$10,000.
Right, whatever it is per month or per year. But we will come and remove it and restore your roof to the way it was prior to solar. Or you can upgrade the system at that time and you say, you know what, the technology is so awesome. Hey, for my house I only got 85%. I'm going to put a new system and now I have a Tesla or whatever. So now my consumption is up and I'm able to get 100% of the entire amount, because the systems are more efficient at that time, right? So it's a good time to reevaluate the technology. That was a couple other questions. Or, this is a likely scenario, you can renew your agreement for up to 10 years in 2 5-year increments. Awesome, right? So now you just made a 30-year agreement, you've got warranty, repairs, everything, power production for 30 years, and you just keep saving. And the savings are backloaded, right? Because the difference between what you're paying now and what Edison is charging you, or the utility is charging you, gets more and more as their annual escalation exceeds ours.
But it looks like you can't own it though.
No. So with the power purchase agreement, which is different than a lease, you actually have the option after year 5 to just buy the system out. So that's an interesting thing if you're interested in it. In ownership itself, for me, the way I looked at ownership, because I didn't get the tax credit, we'll get into that in a few minutes. I wasn't concerned about the tax credit from acquiring solar, because SolarCity took that tax. There's commercials out there. Don't let them take your tax credit. Well, SolarCity is not taking my tax credit. I'm choosing to do a lease rather than owning it because I didn't want to lay out $35,000. And SolarCity is sharing in the tax. The tax credit is factored into their cost of acquisition and installation and all that stuff. And we share in the savings. Awesome. I'm saving money right now. I cannot ask for 0 out of pocket and less money than I was paying before and predictability into the future and not expect SolarCity to be, you know, part of that game. Federal investment tax credit. Just this past December, it was amazing. Congress actually passed a law. It's the Appropriations Act, and they extended the federal tax credit. You may have heard of this, the renewable energy credit. There's a couple different things. Basically, there's a 30% of the, if you pay cash, it's 30% of the cost of the system. You get a tax credit in that following year, right? So I don't want to get into the distinction between deductions and credits, but talk to a tax professional. But you're basically, you know, entitled to getting 30. So if you spent, in my case, let's say it would have been $30,000 system, I get $9,000 back next April.